Hey guys.
Oh, Melody Hobson, what's poppin', babe?
Why don't you start by telling me what is a stock?
Behind the scenes.
Stock is a share in a company.
Yeah, a stock is a share in a company.
Glad that's cleared up. You buy a stock in a company, and that it pretty much means you're part owner of it.
I think you look so pretty. Big brown eyes. You know, I wore the sweater vest, for you. Do you like it?
You don't have to answer that.
Okay, let's move on. How about bonds?
Buying a corporate bond means you're loaning a company money for, a certain amount of time. It's kind of like a fancy IOU.
Sweet melody, oh harmony.
No.
You're like a dolphin to me. My love will set you free. And then...
Hey, girl, can I hit you back? No, well, you can't find them because they're not in season right now. Just squeeze them. All right, call you back. Sorry about that. You were saying?
So I was saying that we've been talking about stocks and bonds, and we've broken down what the basics are of a bond, and now we want to talk about the different types of bonds. So here is a short little video to get you started.
Bond investing is the purchase of the bonds or debt of a company or government. Vic wants a long-term investment that is secure and will grow, so she purchases a treasury bond. These bonds are promises from the government that they will pay you back your investment with interest. Treasury bonds can be purchased through a bank, a stockbroker, or online from the Treasury Department. The government uses the money from Vic's bonds to fund projects such as highway maintenance, public works, and even war. There are many types of bonds for a variety of different institutions. State and local governments issue municipal bonds to finance local projects. Companies issue corporate bonds to borrow money from investors instead of securing a loan from a bank. The companies can then use the money from selling bonds to build new factories, buy new businesses, or simply pay off older debts. Bond investing is normally considered a conservative style of investment. The return on investment is historically lower than you might get from a stock investment, but bonds are not tied to the stock market. Instead, they reflect the credit rating of the government or business. The riskier a business is, the more interest it has to pay to attract investors. So, if Vic wants to continue investing in debt, she can buy a range of bonds that have different interest rates and risk profiles. With some careful thought, Vic can create a bond portfolio that is as diversified as any stock portfolio.
So I just want to break down each of the bond types discussed in the video and then go in depth into the savings bond, which was not discussed in the video. The first type of bond they went over was the government bond. They also called this the treasury bond. And when we talk about treasury bonds, we are talking about the national government. Government or treasury bonds are used for a couple different things. The first they mentioned was road or highway maintenance. And again, this is specific to the national government, so interstates. I remember last summer when the government had their partial shutdown, all of the rest areas and the interstates were closed. The next thing they mentioned was public works, and some of you are kind of like, what the heck is public works? So a public works is any service offered to the public that is paid for from your taxes. When we think about this, I like this little graphic that shows off what can be included in public works. So we've got Parks and Rec, not Leslie Knope and Ron Swanson, but they're a great example. Our national level, when we talk about government bonds, our national parks. Sanitation, this could be our sewage, this could be our garbage. Our streets and roads, we already mentioned that. The fleet, this would be emergency responders. This would be our snow removal. This could be our buildings and facilities when we talk about legal systems. It could be our national museums that you can go to, street lights, street signs, a lot of our electric grids, sometimes our water, waste management, all of that's considered public works. The other major use of a government treasury bond would be war and all of the expenses incurred with that. The next type of bond they mentioned was a municipal bond, and this is a state and local government bond. So the treasury bond was national, municipal is state and local government bonds. These are used for many of the same things as our treasury bonds. So local projects specific to the state or the city. So for example, our Highway 14 that's happening here in the state of Minnesota, that's a local project that again goes with roads and transportation. It could be bridges, it would be your local highways, city streets, things like that. We would have schools that fall under our state and local government bonds, libraries that fall under this, and more of our public works, but think just city and state in terms of public works. The cool thing about municipal bonds is because you're helping your state or because you're helping your city or your local government, they are exempt from federal and or state income taxes. So that's awesome if you take out a bond that's a municipal bond and you earn a lot of money on it. You don't have to pay taxes on your earnings. So super cool in that sense. Our corporate bonds, again, are also known as a company or a business bond, and they're used for things related to that company or business. So if they need a loan, if they're building a new building, if they're expanding their company or their business, or potentially they may need to pay off an old debt of their company. There's an example at the bottom of what a McDonald's bond was, and they could have used that bond for any of those reasons. The last type of bond that the video actually didn't go over is what's called a U.S. savings bond. And these are bonds that are personal individual bonds, and usually they're used for savings or retirement. The neat thing about savings bonds is that they're sold at half of their face value. So this example of a $100 savings bond was actually be purchased for $50. And then they have a maturity length or date. And so you have to own the savings bond for a specific amount of time. And if you keep it and don't cash it out, you're guaranteed to at least get that face value. So I'd at least get $100, plus I'd get the interest that I've earned over the time that I've held or owned the savings bond. So savings bonds used to be very, very popular back with my parents, my grandparents, for like graduation gifts, first birthdays, baptisms. I'd be interested to see if you have any. You might not even know. You might have to ask your parents. I know my mom, like 2 years ago, all of a sudden was cleaning stuff out, and she goes and she gives me this envelope, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, here are your savings bonds. And I was like, what? And I own like a ton of them. And so I wanted to show you some of mine and show you what it looks like for you to figure out what they're worth and how that amount changes as you leave your savings bond sit for a specific amount of time. So here's some examples of my savings bonds. You'll see I have like a $100 one, a $500 one, a $50 one. I have a couple more. My mom outlined them. And like I said, I got them for a bunch of different reasons. Like she's like, here's one for mowing the lawn that I got when I was a year old. So you might actually have the paper version of the savings bond like this if you got it a while ago, or all you might have right now is the electronic version. I know we gave our godson a savings bond and it's all done electronically now, so you don't even get the really cool little piece of paper. But check with your parents if you have a savings bond or bonds, maybe like me, and then you can go online to the Treasury's website and you can use their calculator to figure out how much your bond is currently worth and how much it would potentially be worth at a future date. So this is the Treasury's website. This is where you can go to buy or sell bonds, or you can use their savings bond calculator to look up what your bonds are worth. This is what the calculator looks like. I'm going to show you two of my bonds. You would take your bond and plug in its information. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to show you what mine are worth. So here are just two of my savings bonds. I picked out one that I got when I was a year old and one that I got when I graduated, so you could see the difference in the interest earned over time. If you'll look at the issue price, you'll see that it was half of the denomination price. So the denomination is the face value. So these were bought for only $250 and for $25. And you'll see the $250 one should be worth $500 at minimum, and the $25 one should be worth $50 at minimum. If I look first at the $500 one, it was issued in February of 1990, and the final maturity date was February of 2020. So it was a 30-year bond. So it's past February of 2020, which means that I'm no longer going to earn interest on this bond. I should have gotten at least $500 out of it, plus my interest. So if I look at the interest column, over 30 years, I earned $786.80 of interest on this $500 bond. So when I add those two together, if I took this bond down to the bank right now and I cashed it out, I would get $1,036.80. And I'm not going to get any more than that because it is matured. I'm not going to earn any more interest. So right now it's just sitting in my safe gathering dust. So I really should cash this out and reinvest it or use it towards something. The other bond that's on here, the $50 one that was issued in December of 2006, this has not matured yet. So it matures again in 30 years, so 2036. And I currently have earned $15.12 on this bond. It's a really awesome amount. You'll see I'm only earning 3.6% interest on it, so not a lot. And I've owned that for 13 years. And if I decided to, if I went down to the bank, if I cashed it out right now, I would get $40.12 for this bond. So I'm not even reached the peak value. I haven't even reached $50. So I'm guaranteed to reach $50 if I wait until 2036. And I would hope that I get more than $50 once it's been that length of time, but it really just depends on the interest rates. So that's why we talk about investing being over 5 years, and this is a great example of that, because if I'm not waiting the long time that I need to for my investment, it's actually worth less than what I should be getting. So that's just a quick review of our 4 types of bonds: our national government treasury bonds, our state and local government, which are municipal bonds, our corporate business bonds, and our savings bonds. So as the video mentioned, it's best to diversify or spread around your risk by investing in multiple types of bonds. But
if diversification is Vic's main goal, however, she would do well to use a mix of stocks and bonds.
it's even better to diversify further by doing a mixture of investing in stocks and bonds, which is essentially a mutual fund and what we're going to cover in our next lesson.
So yeah, sorry about last night.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you didn't call.
Yeah, well, I was on E-Trade, diversifying my portfolio, taking control like a wolf.
Right.
What's that? That's volatility in the market. Taken care of, wolf style. Oh, oh, oh.
And that milkaholic Lindsay wasn't over?
Lindsay?
Milka what?